Mind is action. After studying this part, this is part 5, you're going to see that every conceivable force or object or fact is the result of mind in action. So mind in action is thought. Thought is creative. Men are thinking now as they have never thought before. Therefore, this is creative age. This is a creative age. The world is awarding its prizes, its richest prizes, to the thinkers. Matter is powerless, it's passive, it's inert. Mind is force, it's energy, it's powerful. Mind shapes and mind controls matter. Every single form which matter takes its place, the expression is of some pre-existing thought. In chapter 5, part 5, which is where we are today on Rethink Podcast, The Master Key System by Charles Haanel, we're going to talk about the truths of personal transformation and the fact that thought is creative. And whatever you hold in your mind is going to eventually shape into reality. So today we're going to break down how to direct your thoughts with precision so you don't create the things that you don't want, but the things that you do want. We're going to talk about how to strengthen your concentration. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how to use the subconscious mind to produce actual results. How do we get results, Kelly? You're going to learn 3 simple things. Going to be powerful practices that's going to help you create the life that you want from the inside out. And that's really the key. We're creating from the inside out. So welcome into Rethink Podcast today. My name is Kelly. I'm your host. I'm always grateful and encouraged and excited even to welcome you to Rethink Podcast. We got a lot ahead of us today, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, but I always want to encourage you to support the podcast. I really appreciate you guys that have been with me since day one. I see the numbers and I see all the activity on the website and things like that. Thank you guys so much for continually supporting the podcast. That tells me that you are in connection with, what we're putting out, and that's good. And we're always trying to put out things that are helpful for you, things that are going to energize you, things that are going to help you to really get to the, get to the next stage in your business, in your life, in your relationship. So thank you so much for supporting us. If this is your first time listening to Rethink Podcast, where have you been? You've got about, we're on season 5, so you got 4 of the seasons to listen to. Don't stop listening today, but you can always go back and check us out in all the existing podcasts that we have on file. Support the podcast. You can become a member. You can send us a donation. You can buy one of our products, digital books, etc. So you can do all that stuff if you want to support the podcast, and we would be greatly appreciative. We are discussing the Master Key System. You reached us at this particular time in this discussion, and the Master Key System is a book that I read periodically, at least once a year for the last several years. And it recenters me, and it re-energizes me, and it reinvigorates me throughout the course of the year. Now, this particular podcast is being recorded in November 2025, and we are, 45 days or so away from a new year. So we're going to be talking about brand new things very soon. Right now is a good time for us to start. You don't have to wait for a new year. Right now is a good time for us to start and reorganize ourselves and re-energize ourselves and refocus on those things. If you've not hit all the goals you want to hit for 2025, you still got time. You still have time. So let's rock and roll today. Thank you guys for being a part of the podcast. Chapter 5 of the Master Key System, Part 5. It makes you face the truth that most people actually want to avoid. And what is that? That is that your life is shaped by the thoughts that you allow yourself to dwell on. That's a really difficult fact for most of us to accept. That, Buddha even said, what we think about on a consistent basis, that's what we become. Because thought is creative, we are creators, and where we put that energy is going to eventually manifest. So let's talk today about the importance of using that energy in a correct way. Connect to common struggles. Here we are. So many people feel stuck. feel stuck. I'm sorry. So many people feel stuck and they feel discouraged and they feel out of place. They feel like they're behind and they do feel overwhelmed because their minds have been rehearsing fear and doubt and anxiety and limitations. So often, this is what we're feeding to our unconscious mind. So that's what we're seeing on the outside. If you don't control your thought direction, life starts to feel like it is controlling you. In other words, you're the creator. Life is happening as you. Sometimes you feel like life is happening through you. If you're on the wrong side of this, you feel like life is happening at you, like these things are happening to you. And the truth of the matter is, it has to do with the way that we're thinking. So in today's episode, let's talk about simple, practical, usable ways, 3 exercises. We're going to begin to redirect our thoughts, strengthen our concentration, and build mental power. This is really what Charles Haanel talks about in the Master Key System. How to build and direct your mental power. Let's talk about the real power that your mind possesses, the real power that your mind holds, and how to finally use it on purpose. How do we use the power that we have, Kelly, on purpose? So some direct language from the book is going to be involved as well. I'm going to put the, I thought I did this the last time, but maybe I didn't. I'm going to put the actual link to the book in our show notes this time. So if you want to link out and go and purchase the book so you can follow us directly, you can do that. My apologies. I thought I did that last time. I don't think I did. So if your mind is scattered, then your results are going to be scattered. Here's some examples. You can pick a simple object like a candle or a pen or a shape. You can set a timer for 5 minutes and you can hold your attention on that object without letting it go, letting it drift. If it drifts, then just come back. If it drifts, just come back. The key here is to spend 5 minutes a day focusing your mind on a single thought. And what you'll notice is that your mind continues to be distracted. Your attention is always what is mostly at bay or at risk. Folks, things, circumstances are always trying to get your attention. And your goal should be to train your attention on the areas of your life that you want to focus on. So news and social media and family and relationships and work, all of that is to get your attention for whatever their agenda is, whatever their purpose is. There's a practical exercise that I just talked about, picking an object and trying to focus on that object for 5 minutes, just so you can see how often your mind will drift. Now, you do not become powerful by accident. You become powerful by training your attention. Persistence is the one habit that can change your entire mental life. So your mind is like a flashlight. Scattered light doesn't really illuminate anything if it's scattered, but if it's focus, it can really cut through some things. Matter of fact, focused light has a lot of power. It can cut through a hard object. So we jump over to part 5. At least 95% of our mental life is subconscious. This is actual language from the book. So that those who fail to make use of the mental power live within very narrow limits. The subconscious can and it will solve any problem for us if we know how to direct it. That is so powerful to me, to understand that, to believe that, to just know that. Okay, those are the stages. You go from understanding, so this is the discovery phase, to knowing it, to believing it. Okay, from understanding to believing to knowing. So once you get the understanding and you really have faith in that, like this is really how things work, and you begin to believe it, then it's just something that you know. Like you don't have to believe anymore. Like, for example, you don't believe that your car's in the garage. You just know it's there. You left it there yesterday. You don't say, hey, where's your car? You say, well, I believe it's in the garage. No, you know it's there. In the same way about your shoes or whatever it is that you know that are tangible that you can actually put your hands on. That's how secure you have to be in the understanding of these concepts. You've got to know that these things work. And there's a difference. There's maybe slight, but there is a difference. The difference is your assumption, using the law of assumption and just knowing that things are going to work out for you, and just knowing that practically the things that you think about on a consistent basis, the way you present yourself to yourself, that's who you are to the world. After a while, the universe begins to mimic that. The universe begins to support you in those ways. And those things that you assume become. So the mind which pervades the body is largely a result of heredity, which in turn is simply the result of all the environments of all past generations on the responsive and ever moving life forces. An understanding of this fact will enable us to use our authority when we find some unreasonable and undesirable trait of character that is manifesting. We can consciously use all the desirable characteristics with which we have been provided, and we can repress and refuse to allow the undesirable to manifest. In other words, once you have a firm understanding of who you are and your capabilities, you can deny the traits that you do not want, and then you can actually allow the traits that you do. Thoughtful replacement, not repression. Here's the teaching. You cannot stop thinking. You know, when I first started meditating, I would hear people say, well, meditation is just stopping your mind from thinking and stopping all thought. That is a virtual impossibility. Now, you can choose what you think, and you can choose to pay attention to the thoughts that come to you, but your mind, its full product and the way that it works, it thinks. You don't have to engage with it, but it thinks. So you cannot stop thinking, but you can choose what to think. The subconscious mind will create whatever you continually impress upon it. So if you are continually impressing upon your subconscious mind that let's say you're trying to lose weight and you just think, man, I can't do this. I'm going to always be this size. I'm going to always carry this weight. Or you think, hey, I can't get this job. I'm not, I just can't seem to convince myself that I'm, the best qualified for this position. Whatever it is that you are thinking, it will continually be impressed upon your subconscious. And if you know anything about your subconscious is what's going to bring things into reality. The solution, that's what we're listening to the podcast for. The solution is to replace the limited and doubtful thoughts with a very deliberate, constructive one. You're not fighting the old thought. You're just going to crowd it out. Don't fight against things. Don't war against stuff. This is not a war on drugs and a war on poverty. That you have to just weed it out. I heard a long time ago, maybe it was a book that I read, the way to get rid of a thought that you don't want is to simply replace it with a thought that you do. Don't go to war with the old thought. Just replace it. Every time that thought comes into your mind that you can't do something, or you can't lose the weight, or you won't be able to get this job, or you're not qualified for a home, or certain thing that you're trying to do with your business, replace it with a thought that says, I am and I can. Here's some examples. If you're saying to yourself, I'm not enough, say to yourself, I'm growing stronger every day. I am enough. If you're saying to yourself, nothing is changing, which God knows all of us probably at some point even whisper to ourselves because we're doing all this work and sometimes it feels like things are not moving as fast as we want to. Say to yourself, everything I need is aligning with me right now. Everything I need is inside of me. Things are moving. If you're saying to yourself, I can't do this or I can't do that, tell yourself, I'm learning how to do this. Whatever this is, I'm learning how to do this. Why this works is because you cannot pull weeds out of your mind by force. Force is not how we're going to do this. You can plant many new flowers and they'll take over where the weeds once grew. Plant new flowers, new thoughts, and those will take over where the weeds once grew. According to Charles Haanel, if either of us are building a home for ourselves, how careful would we be in regard to the plans? How we should study every detail and how we should watch the material and select only the best of everything. And yet, how careless we are when it comes to building our mental home, which is infinitely more important than our physical home. As everything which can possibly enter into our lives depends upon the character or the material which enters into the construction of our mental home. Pay very close attention, guys, to the thoughts that you're having on a continual basis. This is one of the lessons I learned early on, is that the thing that you consistently and continually think about it crafts your behavior. That's who you really are. Now, that doesn't mean that's who you have to be and stay if it's thoughts that you don't want. But if you're constantly your agitator and you're being negative to yourself, you've got to check that voice. You've got to replace those thoughts. So when this mental house cleaning takes place, the process has been complete. The material which is left is going to be suitable for making the kind of ideals that or mental images which you desire. In other words, the things that you want, you should be thinking about. A lot of times not a lot of times, but many times I find myself in conversations with people and they're talking about things that they quite honestly don't want. And I find myself joining them. And I'm like, hey, why are we having this conversation? None of us want this to happen. So let's stop this conversation and let's talk about something that we actually do want. Somehow, some way we have migrated over to complaint and worry and anxiety, and it rules our conversations, especially if you're someone that watches the news and the negative side of social media. You tend to always talk about the bad stuff. Well, you don't really want the bad stuff, right? But why are you talking about it? I mean, ask yourself, why do I continually talk about the person in my work group or my sorority or my fraternity that I don't really like? Why am I giving this person airtime? Why am I always talking about the negative attributes of my partner, of my spouse? Why? I don't want those to be, but why am I talking about it? Talk about the good attributes because they do have good attributes. Talk about those. Focus on those. All right. This is the last solution, the silent sitting technique. Haanel has instructions at the back of the part 5 that talks about sitting each day to calm your body and train your mind. And this is a doorway to intuition and creativity and, obviously self-control. The practice is this. You want to do about 10 minutes. I would say do 30 minutes, but start with 10 minutes. Keep your back straight, feet flat, and just kind of sit in a natural place, natural breathing that you can do every day and just practice sitting there every day. This is going to prepare you for a little bit more of a mental challenge later on, which is obviously meditation. Here's a visual example. So peace and clarity and strength or a mental picture of the outcome that you desire. This is what you want to be embracing in your mind. What is something that you want? When your mind becomes still, it becomes powerful. That is a statement not just by Haanel, but you can find something similar in every sacred scripture or sutra, in every sacred book that's been written. When you're, like for example, in the Bible, let me see if I can pull this out of my memory. Be still and know that I am God, or I am the Lord. There are several scriptures that talk about how, powerful it is to be still. In other words, to quiet your mind and to recognize your own power. Silence creates space for ideas. It creates space to hear answers. If you do believe that you are connected to a higher power, certainly silence is going to give you the availability to that conversation. And silence also creates space for breakthroughs. If you are noisy, if you're constantly moving and engaged in activity and running your mouth and talking and you got the TV going or social media going, you're not being still and you're not creating a space for ideas or for answers or for breakthroughs. So create a space. If you want answers, create space for it. The infinite life flows through you. Its doorways are but the facilities within your senses. Keep those doors open. These doors are the secret of your power. These doors, this is Haanel speaking, are the secret of power. The great fact is that the source of all life and of all power is from within. Persons, circumstances, and events may suggest need and opportunity, but the insight, the strength, and the power to answer these needs will be found within you. They'll be found within you. Say that you are a creator. You are. It seems to be a lot to tell people that they are God because their minds have not been prepared to receive that. But that's really what it is. You are the channel through which the universe is experiencing itself. So we are each of us, but the channel through which the omnipresent power, the omnipotent power, the omniscient power is being differentiated into actual form. In other words, your body, your human body. Unless we give, the channel is obstructed. In other words, the energy's got to flow through us and out, and we cannot receive anymore. We've got to use it. This is true on every plane of existence, in every field of endeavor, in all walks of life. The more we give, listen very clearly, the more you give, the more you get. The more you give, the more you get. All possession is a result of a cumulative attitude of mind, or what could be called the money consciousness. This is the magic wand which will enable you to receive the idea. It's going to formulate plans for your execution, and it will find as much pleasure in the execution as in the satisfaction of the attainment of that particular achievement. I want to encourage you guys to really do these three solutions that I provided for you today. Number one, concentrate your mind. Just pay attention to what you're thinking. Choose your thoughts deliberately is number two. And then lastly, create space. Create space for clarity, create space for vision, create space for answers to the problems that you think you're having or challenges that you're having in your life. You're not powerless. You're not stuck. You're not limited. You're simply learning to direct your mind the way a master directs a tool, with intention and with authority. So, if this breakdown helped you today, listen to the podcast over again, comment, talk about it, ask questions if you need to. I'll be glad to answer them. Listen to the podcast over again. That's probably the most important instruction I always give you guys. Listen to the podcast over again because we tend to miss things that, we maybe have heard or kind of slightly didn't get the first time. All right. My goal is always to empower you. So this information should be empowering. It empowers me as I'm explaining it to you. So thank you guys for listening today. We'll be back again tomorrow with part 6, and we will talk to you then. Thanks.